Hello Fallout fans everywhere, I'm JC Denton 2012 and I'm giving something of a project update. This particular video will be dedicated to the City of Lost because I'm having to build it for Fallout New Vegas as opposed to the earlier work I did with Fallout 3 where it was really just a test build. This time I'm building the entire city for a mod, and it will be one of maybe 4 or 5 cities in the mod. So the reason why I'm giving this particular update is because I had to do a lot of research to build the City of Lost in this particular mod, and what I discovered was that in Fallout lore, specifically Fallout Wiki, they have the location of the city more than likely completely and totally wrong. According to Fallout Wiki, in Fallout Brotherhood of Steel, the City of Lost is actually Los Cabanas, and this is Texas. First of all, Los Cabanas is actually a suburb of, I believe it's the town of La Mesa. And it has none of the infrastructure, no rail yard, no docks, no rail lines at all, no skyline, no highway overpasses, no bridges. In fact, it's a desert town in the far western corner of Texas. That has absolutely and totally nothing to do with the events of Fallout Brotherhood of Steel. Now, the reason why I'm saying that the location is more likely Dallas is because, first of all, I did a lot of research. One of the things that I noticed, and this is all based upon the outro of the Fallout Brotherhood of Steel game, where you get to see the nuclear bomb detonating in the actual city. You get to see the skyline twice in the actual game. And the first time when the bomb detonates, you get to see it from the vantage point of the Ghoul Town on the highway overpass. Well, it's actually a bridge, highway overpass bridge. But anyway, you get to see the actual bomb detonating there, and you get to see the skyline. If you compare this skyline to the skyline for Dallas, you will notice that it is either an exact match or really close to being an exact match. The same cannot be said for Los Cabanas, which lacks any skyline with any prominent skyscrapers. And we'll come back to that later. The second time you actually get to see the skyline is a few seconds later. You get to see it from the vantage point, 80-degree rotation, and from the side swipe of the city, you get to see the skyline from that direction. And you can once again compare it to the skyline of Dallas and notice that it is eerily similar. And we'll be circling back around to this again in a minute as well. I would like to take this opportunity to explain in greater detail why I think Fallout Wiki is wrong. First of all, the greater elaboration of why the City of Lost is Los Cabanas is actually a justification. Well, I hesitate to call it fan fiction, but it's really fan fiction, based upon the actual facts listed at the very bottom of the page. And I would like to address these facts now. The first is that the Lone Wanderer actually admits that the City of Lost was known as Lost something before the war. This could easily be explained by how certain names in the Fallout universe for major cities they were kind of bastardized, after the war, such as The Pit or Ronto. It's not much of a stretch for Dallas to have become Dallas and eventually Lost after the war. So I can explain that particular one line very easily. Now the other one, and this is one of my favorites, the city is actually surrounded by mountains. That is the greatest justification for people who absolutely demand that Los Cabanas is the actual city known as Lost. However, if you look at Dallas, you will notice that it is surrounded by several natural lakes. If these lakes were to dry up, the city would have, from the vantage point of approachers, look as though it's sitting on a plateau and surrounded by mountains. Because, once again, these are dry lake beds, and we'll come back to this again later on because it actually plays to my advantage for the final part of the video. Let's see. There was one more. Ah, yes. It's actually stated directly that the city of Lost does not lie along the Texas coastline. That is why most Texas cities have been considered not to be the actual location for Lost. Dallas actually does not lie along the coastline. It is slightly inland from the coastline. Just enough to where they can justify having docks but actually not be connected to the coast. Therefore, unlike Los Cabanas, which has no water access whatsoever, in fact, it is near no bodies of water, Dallas can actually have the dock facilities that make an appearance in Fallout Brotherhood of Steel. So, the only real reason that people can say that Los Cabanas might actually be the city of Lost is by saying that this is an alternate reality in which Voltec went to Los Cabanas, decided to cut a waterway clear across Texas, not to mention establish railroads and everything to build their secret vault, that because they wanted all of this privacy, and they probably spent billions upon billions upon billions of dollars to achieve this. To which I say, bullshit. Because Dallas not only does, in the actual outro, does the skyline match up twice to Dallas, but it has all the existing pre-war infrastructure to support a Vault-Tec project. Also, and this is something else that's really interesting, Dallas has its highway overpasses next to a rail yard, which is next to a large convention center, which is also next to a dockyard, which is also next to the city infrastructural core. So, if you actually compare the sequence of the areas you can go to in Fallout Brotherhood of Steel to Dallas, they are actually in sequence correctly. Oh, but I'm still not done. Remember when I said we were going to circle back to the second part of the outro where you get to see the skyline from an 80-degree rotation? Line this up with one of the naturally reoccurring lakes and streams that surround Dallas, and you will see the correct land formation in the outro to the actual skyline itself from this angle. There is absolutely no denying that the city of Lost is indeed Dallas. And the amount of research that I had to do to prove this is just, it puts Los Cabanas to shame. I mean, I don't understand. It is possible that I can be wrong, but there is just so much stuff here that you would have to debunk actual evidence as opposed to mere fan fiction. Anyway, that is all. I'll see if I can get some images up on Fallout Nexus within the next few days for the City of Lost. Toodles.